Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Taproom Success podcast show. We'll call it podcast show this round. I feel like we just fiddle with it every single go round, Carrie. But how's everything up north? It looks like you have a beautiful fall day in New Hampshire. Is that correct?
It is correct. I'm getting blasted by the sun, so those that are watching us on the YouTube can see that I am getting blasted. I had a shade that fell down, so this is what we got. But no, it is a beautiful day. It's early November. The fall leaves are still up here in New England, and it's gorgeous. I love it.
No, I'm a little jealous. It's been a couple years I've been up your way. I had a great time, so I'm sure it's beautiful fall weather. So in the last episode, we kind of went with my perspective of just little things owners, managers can do to maximize the experience using data and feedback. So I think this one, we're kind of flipping it a little bit. It's going to be more from your side of things. So Carrie, we often get caught in the trap of day-to-day compliance activities. You know, those like things we have to do. And we often don't make time for value-added activities, things that actually move the needle and make a big difference in our taproom businesses. So let's start with just defining the difference between a compliance task and a value added task in a taproom.
Yeah, I'm starting to see these patterns more and more in different things that I do. So as a weird example to kind of kick it off is that when I started in my professional career, CPA doing tax returns, and an example of compliance tasks would be like, you got to file your taxes. And so that's what we did. We would file taxes for our clients. And then it dawned on me like, I'm seeing things in these businesses where I could help them. I could see where maybe they can cut expenses or they can improve in cash flow. And those are like value added tasks, right? So when you think about like these buckets of work and how might that be applicable to the taproom, compliance tasks, things that you have to do. Now, the characteristics are kind of like interesting to me is that compliance tasks are usually have very firm deadlines. Again, go back to your taxes. Like it's April 15th or you file an extension, it's October 15th. But if you miss those deadlines, there's real consequences. The tax guy's going to come get you. So you might also think of payroll. Like, so if you're a manager, you go to approve payroll because if you don't approve it, people don't get paid. There's real consequences and there's a real deadline. So it seems to me that most of our time gets spent on these compliance tests. Got it. We have to do it. But I think the importance and really the point of this podcast topic is to recognize that we need to make time for value added tasks as well. And going back to my tax return example, to be able to sit with the client and say, your tax returns are done, everything's, you're all ready to go. But I want to talk to you about these three things that I found that could make your business better. Those are value added tasks. And that's sort of the theme for today's show.
Okay, well, let's dive a little bit deeper. So, Carrie, what are a few high impact value added actions that teams can start doing today that actually move the needle?
Well, my perspective is usually finance first, right? Like how are we doing from a profit and cash flow standpoint? So that's kind of where I'm gonna stay in my lane on that. But you can apply this to any areas of your business where you feel like, oh, there's opportunities we should take advantage of. So if we think about from a profit and cash flow standpoint, it would be where are we actually making money? Do we ever dig in and understand that? And we've talked a lot about, as it relates to food and menu optimization and really understanding what are the items on our menu that actually have a high contribution margin in dollars that are really contributing to, the make or break results of my business from a profit and cash flow standpoint. So one high value added task is understand the cost structure of everything that you sell, your price structure, and your margins. Most of us have a kind of vague, well, we run our financials and we kind of see a blended gross margin. That's a good start, but we sell all sorts of different things. What are the margins on our beer portfolio? They can vary greatly. What are the margins on the different products within our beer portfolio? We talk about flights a lot, or small pours, or big pours, or this, that, growlers to go. What are the margins on those? So the first step, and I think a high value added task is understand the numbers of your business so that you can guide customers to those products that they're going to love and that your P&L is going to love too. It's going to make you more profitable. So that's one example. But I would sort of take that template and think, all right, value added task. Yeah, things that are really going to move the needle. Maybe it is streamlining your menu, cutting it back. Maybe it is we got to upgrade this tap room. We need to, maybe it is really focusing on a true event strategy. It's endless. So it's a little bit of a look in the mirror and see what's important to you, but think about that concept of how can we spend time on value added tasks.
Is it fair to say that these value added tasks don't have to be like huge effort? They can be just little things you can do that can be beneficial?
Sure. And you never really know, right? I mean, it could be, we're always looking for the sort of that lead domino, that one thing that you can do that makes other things easier. So sure, it could be a little thing. It could be a lot of the things that we talk about all the time, which is, engagement and staff training and a simple hello and a goodbye and a welcome. I had this weird experience
Oh,
this
here it
mor
is. Tell me
this
about it.
this morning. So I'm trying to help out my folks. They've got a condo down in Florida and they need to call a pest company, right? So I call it and I think it's called PureCore or whatever. And so it's a pretty transactional routine and I get it all organized. And she concludes the call and she goes, "Is there anything else I can?" "No, thanks so much." She goes, "Well, thank you. And thank you for being the best part of PureCore." And I was like, "Oh, that kind of, it struck me like I've never heard anyone say that." So I say that only to say, wouldn't that be interesting if upon, checking out at a tap room, say, "Andrew, thank you for being the best part of our
So
brewery."
my question to you is, in my mind, like the pest company, and I called one yesterday for another reason. And if they said that to me, it would almost feel like it was a script. Did it feel like he was just reading off a sheet of paper with something she was supposed to say, or did it actually feel like, I mean this?
It felt genuine. I hear
Okay.
what you're saying because it's like you can be, it can come off a little, yeah, disingenuous. This one actually felt sincere. So sure, it's not always what you say but how you say it. And in this particular case I thought it was well delivered. But that, I guess, that could be an example of evaluate is training, our staff to really, appreciate the customer. Goes a long way.
And if you ever need to pick me up, just call your local pest company. They'll make you feel good.
That's true. You never know where it's going to come from.
Okay. But taproom staff, as we know, Gary, they're already like super busy. So how can managers realistically rebalance time so more of the focus goes towards these guest-facing, revenue-driving work?
Yeah, at first it's just a mindset issue, and I think it's been an unlock for me to think about all the tasks that are either compliance or value added. Throw them into one bucket or the other, and recognize that, and see if you can shift some of that uh, time into the value added bucket, because that's going to make a difference. Um, and then second is there's a couple of sort of time saving uh, models that we've talked about before. My favorite is eliminate, automate, delegate, which is look at the things that you're doing and kind of run it through that filter. Can I eliminate? Do I need to do this task? Why am I doing this task? There's stuff you can eliminate. We hold on to things sometimes because it's momentum. We've just always done it. Automate is, can I automate this? Is there software? Is there some way that I can? And delegate is, somebody else should be doing this. And we know, so if you run through those filters, you're going to find some time. It's not easy, but some of this is letting go. So that's a model that's helped me a lot to kind of free up some time so that you can use it again towards those value added tasks.
Okay, so how should breweries be tracking and measuring whether shifting time towards these value-added tasks is actually paying off?
Yeah, I mean, we're a big fan, and I'm really focused now on these things called OKRs, objectives and key results. So we talk about key metrics all the time. You're going to hear me talk more about objectives and key results. Because as much as I love dashboards and metrics, they can be somewhat orphaned, right? It's like this sort of random thing that we're tracking, and I do think they're important, but the main answer to your question is, we need to measure it so we can see what are the results of these actions that we're taking. So if I'm going to say, hey, I want to train my staff on a sincere goodbye, thank you for being the best part of our tap room. You know, did that make a difference? Is it a customer satisfaction? Do you see it in, and that's a small example, right? Or it's what we talk about all the time is, can I offer you some beer to go? I see that you like this. Well, and we know, you've got all the data that says you'll 4 to 5x your to go beer if you simply ask that question. So measure it, start training on it, 100% compliance with that ask, and then see what that does. But you got to start with a baseline, measure it, and see what happens. And you can apply that to everything. Uh, are you interested in joining our loyalty program? You get X, Y, and Z. I'm like, didn't even know you had one. So these are all things that you can do.
So
But
I love what you just said about joining your loyalty program. You get all these benefits. I'm literally writing an article on that right now because we'll probably do it in a future episode. But so often it's like, hey, do you want to join the loyalty program? And that's kind of it. You
yeah,
got to
yeah.
sell it to the customer and make them feel like they're winning. But aside,
Yeah, no, no, that's it. I mean, I think you're right. It's there's and there and so when I said the decision-making model was sort of eliminate, automate, delegate, those are true things. And the last one that I didn't mention is sort of this iterate. Like, how do you get better? So you can start with, let's train our staff on uh, asking hey, do you want to join our loyalty program? Yeah, okay. But iterate, get better is you want to join our loyalty program, you get all these benefits. That's sort of next level. But I think it's starting it and recognizing you can always get better. But from a tracking perspective, it's kind of the only way to know, if these things are making a difference, because that's the goal, right? Value added means I'm adding value. So how do I know? Got to track it and quantify it.
okay. So we're going to end with something that we haven't talked about in a little bit. Tell
Nice.
me what you're reading right now.
Oh, well, as a matter of fact, I don't know if you can see it. Can you?
That light is making it very
It's
difficult.
it's pretty difficult. I look like I'm witness protection right now. So this is a book called Measure What Matters. Amazing, right? That I'd read a book called Measure What Matters. It's by
And you
John.
didn't write this book?
I didn't write it. No, I bought it at an airport and consumed it on a plane ride. It's by John Doerr, investor, and talks a lot about objectives and key results, OKRs. So really, where did these things start with Andy Grove at Intel and with the folks at Google and on and on and on. And it's just such a nice goal setting framework that I just fell in love with it. And it's like there's so many stories, so it's very numbers based, but there's lots of stories behind it and case studies and successes and things like that. So that's what I'm reading. What are you reading, Andrew?
I'm reading a Carrie Shumway recommendation. The
Oh, here we
version
go.
I'm going to show really is the one without the cover, but I'll give you a clue.
The Foundation Sprint. Yes, that
So
yep,
you recommended the book Click to me.
click. Yep.
And in your text, when you told me about it, you're like, it kind of reminds me of the workshop or playbook, which you and I have talked about right
Yes.
before. It kind of reminds me a mix of that meets like Simon Sinek's Start with Why a little
Yes.
bit because it kind of really dives into like what are your differentiators? How are you focusing on what the customer needs? And how are you really figuring out like those one or two things that are going to be what sets you apart for success? And I'm really enjoying it. It's really interactive. I think it could be a fun not necessarily activity book, but it could give you some good ideas of ways you kind of figure out what may or may not work for your brewery business.
Totally. Yeah, I love it. And you're right. I think it's a combination of all those things. And what's cool too is it's from someone that's done it repeatedly. They're like, oh, this is actually because we love models and frameworks and things like this. And it's like, so you don't have to like think about it or create the wheel, recreate the wheel. And that was a pretty good read too. There's lots of like visuals and I don't know, I'm kind of a simpleton. So I like, all the little cartoons and whatnot that
You
are in
got
there.
it from your favorite bookstore, the airport, right?
That one, did I? Probably. That's where I find most of them because you're wandering around, I'm bored out of my skull. I'm maybe on a plane for 3 hours. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. And, usually it is.
But interesting leads to inspiration. I think that's why we're all here. We kind of started Taproom Success to bring people like us together to brainstorm ideas, learn from each other, share what works, what doesn't work. So if you want to get inspired, definitely encourage you to join the Taproom Success membership. We'd love to have you. You get to meet monthly with Taproom managers just like you from all across the country. At this point, I think we have hundreds of hours of pre-recorded content. Some of it is lessons from Carrie and I, and others is us bringing in industry experts talking about the things that matter most to you, whether it's building a food program, offering different beverages in your tap room. If you're listening in November, we're going to be soon doing one on just tap room event planning, which is so important as many of you become more event planning companies and arguably, beverage producers sometimes. You got to find ways to get butts and seats, what's going to help you stand out. You can learn more at taproomsuccess.com. And Carrie, you got anything else?
No, I love it. That's great. It's, we're stronger together, right? And it's that line we use. If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So here at Taproom Success, we can go together. So please,
Take our
please check
hands
us
and
out
let's
if you're
see where we
interested.
go. See everybody soon.